In this video, we're going to be discussing the property traffic section of Leads and Stats. So if you've ever asked the question, how can I find out how many people are looking at my properties online? Here's the video that's going to answer that in depth. And so it's important to note that Leads and Stats is only reporting the traffic amount for ColdwellBankerLegacy.com. So anybody that's viewed your properties on ColdwellBankerLegacy.com. For other sites like Trulia, Zillow, Realtor.com, etc., we use ListHub, and I'll explain that in future videos. But we're inside the Leads and Stats section, and over here on the right-hand side, we have the Traffic radio button selected, and then we want to go ahead and select Properties. Now, once you select Properties, a list of all of your active listings is going to show up in a drop-down here. So if you'll go ahead and select the property you want to work with, and then click on Continue on the upper right-hand side, we'll go ahead and we'll get to the Report Criteria page. Now again, like the Sales Associate website, we have the same type of layout here where we select the report criteria, and the first thing is the time frame for which we'd like to see the report. So on the left, it automatically defaults to the month that you're currently on. So in this case, you can see November 2012. Now, since it's November 9th when I'm making this video, if I ran this report, I'm only going to get the traffic for 5801 Lowell Street from November 1st to November 9th. Now, if you wanted to do a complete month, you could go back and say select October, and you could do the entire month of October. If you're doing this for a specific range, so let's say instead of a month, you want to do it for 2 weeks, you would basically say select the start date, and you could say, we'll go to the beginning of November. We'll say do it for November 1st through November 9th. And so on. But for this example, we're going to go ahead and do the month of October. Now on the right hand side, you have the selection for file format, and you have either HTML or PDF. HTML is essentially going to be a report that loads quicker if you just want to simply view the report. If you want to print the report, email the report as an attachment, I would highly suggest doing it as a PDF. For this example, we're going to use HTML. Down below are all the available report types, and these are the little sections that are going to show up in the report. So you have property visitors and visits, property page views, property referring websites, and property search terms. You can select these one by one by selecting the checkbox in the upper left-hand corner, or if you just want to go ahead and select all, you can click the Select All selection right here below report types, and all will be included. And then to run the report, you just go to the upper right-hand corner, click the green checkbox, and it says Generate Report, and we'll be into the report. So like the other videos that I've explained, these charts, they're pretty much similar, and I'll explain them again in just brief detail. Blue is representative of visitors, so every person that sits in front of a computer, that computer has a unique identifier or IP address, and that registers them one time. If that computer or user comes back multiple times, it will show up in red as visits. So again, visitors is just the number of computers that have come, and then visits are the number of times they have come. So if you see one instance on one of your properties where red is higher, that just means one of your visitors has returned for a secondary visit. The visitor entry pages explains to you how they got into the property detail or in to look at your listing. In this instance, what we're seeing is 13 people came directly in from the property details page. Now, if, for example, you ordered a name writer, or the person was browsing and then came across this property, it might show you some other entry pages of how they got into here. Down below, you have a breakdown of day-by-day traffic, so you can see what type of marketing things you might be doing that's influencing the traffic that are looking at your properties online. So if you're holding an open house and you went out and distributed open house postcards or let the neighborhood know, you could see how that was reflected if you had the web address for the property included in your marketing piece. You could see how many people went online and looked at that. So you can see the total number of visitors and the total number of visits here on a per day basis for your date range. In the bottom right hand corner, you can click download data if you wanted to export this to an Excel spreadsheet. If you had your own type of report that you wanted to add this data to, you could do so. The page views is basically going to explain to you how many page views did the person go through when they clicked on this property. And so some of the things that might generate a page view is if they went and navigated and looked at other things such as the demographics. If they went and looked at other properties, those would be counted as page views for one of those visits. Now the next section is referring sites. And this is important because it lets you know how people found this property. And so right now the first thing that we see is direct URL or bookmark, 46.15%. So that direct URL or bookmark, it will also reflect anybody that went to coldwellbankerlegacy.com, was searching through properties, and then landed on your property. But we want to know if anybody happened to just go to a search engine, type something in, and happened to land directly on this property's detail page. And we can see that we did have some traffic. 3 of the total of 13 visitors came from google.com. And this is important to note because we do a lot to make sure that your listings are optimized on Google so that if somebody types in an address, that we make sure that organically or in the list of results on a search engine that we show up as high as possible. We do have some stiff competition with the third-party syndicators being Trulia, Zillow.com, Realtor.com, and we try to do everything we can to make sure that people land on our site when they do a search so that ultimately we can control the inquiries that come in or email questions that come in on your listing. So you can see obviously Trulia generated 3 visits and Bing.com, another search engine, generated 1. The search terms will show up down here. Now you can see we don't have any data in this segment for search terms. This property has not been on the market for very long, so this isn't the best of example. But what you'll find in here is you'll see what people typed into Google to land on this property. And you might be saying, well, there's 3 people that came from Google, so what did they type in? For whatever reason, it's not reporting that here in this report. But when you look through some of your properties, you might find things like the exact street address. Somebody might have typed in the exact street address, and that would show up under search terms here, and it would let you know how many people landed on the property that way. And so you can kind of come in here and review some of your properties that have been on the market a little bit longer to get an idea of what people are typing into those search engines that are giving them your listing's property detail page as a result. And that information can be very useful for how you target. You may buy Google AdWords. There may be some other types of things that you can do to increase marketing exposure for some of your listings. So this is just a brief snapshot of the report for listing traffic. If you got any questions, you're more than welcome to email me over at headquarters, and I'd be happy to walk you through any of these reports and explain in detail how you can get some of the reports from some of the other websites.